Alright, welcome back, you lot. It's time to have a little chat about some weird little guys. See, I really like that particular niche of miniatures. Freaky little lads who you take one look at and go, whose idea was this? It's one of my favourite sort of tropes when it comes to, really any range of miniatures. The weirder the little lad, the happier I am. But the ones that were shown off on Monday, before the Defiler was shown off, there's something about them that's not quite hitting it for me, and I'm not really sure what it is or why it is that they're just not landing / resonating. Maybe it's because, frankly, having seen the Defiler, all else is just trash. Now, that's not true. That's not true. The Defiler's really good, but it's not like everything is going to be terrible simply because it exists. That's a ridiculous thing to say. But yeah, there's something about these that just isn't quite hitting right, and I can't really work out why that is. Before we get into it, apologies for the voice. That flu thing that I had, I get better and then I get worse again, and today is a worse day. I don't know what's going on, but don't worry, it's being looked into, but good God, it's getting frustrating now. Anyway, let's have a look at this lot. So this is Thanatek's Tithe, and we have had some new Ossiarch Bone Reaper stuff. Anyway, this is for Underworlds, by the way, and you know what, for the most part, I really like the Ossiarch Bone Reaper stuff. It looks very, very cool. I like the way they're constructed. I like the way the armour is formed of actual bones. It's just a very fun faction. That being said, some of it I prefer more than others. And this specific lad, Thanatek, right here, is an interesting one, because I really like the overall structure of the model. I think the pose is really quite cool. I like the way they've done the four-arm situation here. Looks very sort of collector of antiquities, very like, I'm going to steal your stuff, which I quite like. But I do think that he has something of a goofy face. He seems far too happy to be where he is, and it doesn't look like the expression can change, which is something that for some reason makes it all the more weird that he permanently looks like he's having a little bit of a giggle. Now, I feel like for some, that would be absolutely lovely and fine. For some reason, I think it's just the overall sculpt of the face. It doesn't give menacing laugh. It just sort of gives goofy grin, which I'm not quite on board with. But that being said, the rest of the miniature is pretty cool. I really like the staff. The staff is fantastic. That ritual blade, on the other hand, is great. The spooky soul sort of infected or whatever, or soul infused smoke coming out of that hand looks really, really nice. Plus, the combination of the cloth and the armour and the fact that he's sort of hovering off the ground, it's overall a very cool pose, and I think for the most part, it's decent. I just don't like his face. I just don't like his face, and I would love to really work out why that is outside of it just feels a little bit goofy, but I'm struggling to work out exactly what my problem is with it, which is incredibly unsatisfying, not just for you to hear, but for me to feel. But sometimes that's just the way that it is. However, the thing is, nothing in terms of the conflict I feel for this particular model is even close to the conflict I feel for these two. In theory, I feel like I should really like these. So they've got this big casket that's maintained coming out of the torso, and then you've got a head on either side. The fact that they are using a two-handed weapon whilst having two heads, the heads having no mouth as well, is extra creepy, which is very, very cool. But there is something about that casket that is just not doing it for me. I think the overall concept of these is actually pretty fun. I think it's pretty good. I think with a few changes to the models, I would be all on board. But there's something about the implementation of it that is just not doing it for me at all. The chest feels both too wide but not wide enough at the same time. I think the design of it is what's making it feel a bit off. Also, obviously it's been painted in a different colour to the rest of the body, which makes it look like it doesn't belong more than it makes it look like it does. Which, I mean, to an extent, I guess that kind of makes sense, but I feel like if you painted that in the same bone as the rest of, well, the bones on the miniature, that would just make it blend better, and it would look a bit more, I don't know, a bit more well thought out. It's a tricky one. The caskets themselves, so if we scroll up a little bit, It says that it's primarily to carry bones and mystical soul stuff, which is hilariously non-specific, but sure. Imagine how handy that would be for a trip to the supermarket. I mean, I guess it would be kind of handy, sort of, if you are happy to have a coffin wedged into your torso and an extra head, and you weren't allowed to speak. There's just something about them. They just don't look right. Like, I don't know how else to put it. They look like alien technology implanted into something that is a lot more like fantasy coded than the actual thing. They look like, basically, to me, scratch built, homemade Necron stuff wedged into a completely different faction. I don't know how else to put it. They just don't look like they belong, but not in a cool way. In a, we've had an idea, but we don't know how to implement it way. As it is, there are plenty of conversions out there turning the Ossiarch Bone Reapers into Necrons, but this just feels like someone accidentally did that, but officially. It's a really odd one. It's a really odd one because when it comes to weird stuff like this, normally I'm all on board, but the execution for this one is just not doing it for me. It's just not hitting right, and I think a big part of that is it feels like there's a stylistic disconnect here between the guys that are carrying the caskets and the caskets themselves. The overall concept is pretty fun. You know, like an actual... If you were to do this with like Soulblight Gravelords, for instance, and you did it with either like Death Rattle or with some zombies or whatever, if it was a wooden coffin and it was wedged into some sort of like flesh abomination that was a few zombies melded together, if you did a similar thing but with some skeletons, that would work super well. There's no reason why it shouldn't work well for the Ossiarch Bone Reapers, but they've just chosen a really bizarrely not fantasy, not even sort of steampunk slash like Magitech kind of look for them. They just look like they're from something that's sci-fi, which is just throwing me off really, really badly. Which is a shame, because, yeah, otherwise, this is a fun concept. And if it was done differently, I think I'd be on board, but it's just not right for some reason. It's just not right, man. It's just not right. That being said, we've got a few of the new assassin-type lads. It showed off a few of these during the New Year preview, and I really like the design of them, and these are no different. They are very fun, very cool models. They're something a little bit different. Again, that combination of like ragged cloth and the swept back armour that they've got is very, very cool. The overall poses are really nice, and they read super clear as to what they are. Like, you can glance at these, you know full well what these are, what they do, pretty much straight away. They read incredibly well, and it's kind of weird to see something with this kind of proper cohesive and recognisable design right next to something like this that just feels... it's not done yet. It needs more time in the oven. It's not quite baked through. But then when you get to these, they are very, very nicely done miniatures, and I don't think there's anything about them that really would need to be changed for any reason. They look like assassins, and that's exactly what they are. This lad looks like a magic user, looks like a relic collector. Like, again, reads really nice and clear. These look like, I don't know what they look like. I just don't know. They look like one of my sillier kit bash ideas that I've had at 2 o'clock in the morning when I should have actually gone to sleep because I know full well I've got to get up early the next day. That's what they look like, and, you know, sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes I will admit that those ideas at that time of night are just not great. But that's just me. As always, this is all super subjective, so I'm super curious to see what you think of those lads, whether there's something in there that's like really speaking to you in terms of just the overall design of them, whether you also feel like the casket element is a bit weird and not integrated properly. I'm super curious, because I don't really feel like these are that great, but I could be totally in the minority, in which case, let me know. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. In the meantime, feel free to click all the things. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you for the next one.